Fujara, budaj sa spukala. Fujara, budaj sa spukala. Že si mi tej noci dobre nepískala. Veď som ťa napojil pod skalou v doline. Veď som ťa napojil pod skalou v doline. Že by si mi pískala v noci po dedine.
The shepherd's fife is a characteristic Slovak folk music instrument. It is a transverse flute with 3 finger holes and an additional side pipe that is air vent to supply air. It is not found among musical instruments of any other nation or tribe. Because of its uniqueness, interesting acoustic properties and the lasting traditional techniques used in its production, it has often been called the Queen of Slovak folk music instruments. The dynamic properties of this instrument allow for the interpretation of tunes ranging in loudness between pianissimo and mezzo forte. A characteristic feature of the shepherd's fife is the additional production of sub-aliquot tones, which, along with an appropriate combination of fingering technique, allows for the use of all acoustic properties and peculiarities of this instrument. A presumed historical home or birthplace of shepherd's fifes in Slovakia is the region under Polana mountain in central Slovakia. The shepherd's fife is an instrument the use of which had been mainly associated with the shepherd's life and pasturage. This determined its application in the open nature as a solo instrument, contributing to the natural environment with music full of lyricism and sentiment, but also of strength and determination, and last but not least, meditation of the player, whose performance was in perfect harmony with the surrounding milieu of savage mountains. The tunes played on the shepherd's fife were almost always accompaniment to songs. This is why famous fifers of the past periods in the natural development of this instrument were those who not only played the tune, but also sang the lyrics. The fife was historically used by men only. Women never played it in the past under natural conditions. It was also not suited as an accompaniment to dance, which is why it was never combined with other instruments of folk music, its use being always as a solo instrument of nature. Sometimes the shepherd's fifer used to play together with the player on a small fife, or with another shepherd's fifer, if their instruments were accordingly tuned. The construction of the shepherd's fife is similar to Wallachian, that is Romanian shepherd's folk instruments. However, its unique musical and acoustic peculiarities testify its origin and development in central Slovakia in a later period than the famous Wallachian colonization, that is late 14th century. A likely predecessor of the shepherd's fife is the 3-finger-hole shepherd's flute, in some areas of Slovakia called the 3-hole one-hand flute, similar in construction to a small shepherd's fife without the auxiliary side pipe functioning as air vent. The oldest historical written documents mentioning the shepherd's fife are manuscripts from mid-18th century. There are similar names of folk musical instruments in Hungarian, Romanian or Polish Goral dialects. However, these invariably refer to short transverse flutes. The material for shepherd's fife is mostly the elder tree wood, Sambucus nigra, interchangeably ash tree, maple tree, rather rarely acacia or black locust, or yew Taxus species. The wood is collected as principal in the period of vegetative rest, that is from November to March, because it has lower water content and thus reduced possibility of bursting when drying. The two ends of the prospective fife are then coated by Vaseline to prevent wood from bursting at the ends. The wooden stem intended for the shepherd's fife should then be let to dry with the original tree bark on it, but with a cylindrical hole bored in the middle for 1 year, or for 3 years without the hole. Now I will try to make you acquainted briefly with the ways and techniques of playing this musical instrument. We shall start with its holding. The shepherd's fife is held between the thumb and 2 fingers of one hand, the middle finger covering the first vent hole. The second vent hole is covered by the thumb and middle finger of the other hand. These are in fact the possibilities of tone correction. To start playing for the so-called blow-off, we need full lung capacity. So we start with full breath and maximum onset of blowing. What you hear in the blow-off, the short staccato parts of the tune, can be achieved by blocking the blowhole with your tongue, like this. The next step in our brief course of Shepherd's Five playing will be the playing of tones. We shall play these through the intensity of blowing without the moving fingers on the vent holes. A good exercise in blowing and generally in getting acquainted with the Shepherd's Five instrumentation is a short tune of a Slovak folk song, Highway in the Valley, which contains tones that can be played without finger movement on the vent holes, only through the intensity of blowing. If you master this simple tune, it means that you got acquainted with breath exercise needed for this musical instrument. Now let us play the musical scale. The keynote is achieved with all the air vents covered. The other tones are as follows: second, third, fourth tone, fifth tone, sixth tone, seventh tone. Eighth tone sounds rather nice with a tremolo. After you have mastered the fingering technique, breath exercises and musical scale, it is time to try to play a tune. I have chosen a tune typical for this instrument, a shepherd's song, Slowly My Sheep Up the Valley. The Shepherd's Fife is an instrument which, in its modern form, has descended from its traditional milieu, that is mountains, shepherds, cottages or grazing slopes, and has become a topic of interest of folk music artists performing to Slovak and other audience. It is a very meditative instrument, serving a kind of higher spiritual communication. It is an instrument able to reflect various human feelings and moods as expressed in its tunes. Therefore, we could also pay a brief attention to the sphere of musical use of the Shepherd's Fife. In conclusion, I would like to thank you for the attention you have devoted to me and to this instrument, wishing you many pleasant experiences and feelings in discovering the heart and substance of the shepherd's fife as a traditional folk music instrument.
Pusť ma, bača, pusť ma z hoje na jeseň. Ej, svoju milú frajervočku vidieť chcem. Večer tašiou, ráno prišiel kolibe. Joj, nič dobrýho nedoniesol na sebe. Len valašku zamrvenú od krve. Joj, košielvočku dotrhanú od nože.